Right, let's get one thing straight before we start. You've watched, what, 1,000 episodes of One Piece? You know the names, you know the hats, you know the man with the rubber body who apparently thinks punching people harder solves geopolitical crises. And yet, and this is the bit that should terrify you, you don't actually know what the One Piece is. The actual treasure. The thing the entire show's named after.
20-odd years of story, and the central prize is a locked box nobody's opened on screen. That's not world building, that's a hostage situation. Ichiro Oda has taken an entire generation hostage with a wooden chest and a laugh. So today we're doing something useful, which is rare for me. We're going through 5 of the wildest fan theories about what's actually inside the One Piece. And I'm going to tell you, with the full weight of my extensive research, which took about 40 minutes and several cups of tea, which of these theories are clever, which are cope, and which have been personally, publicly, humiliatingly destroyed by the man who created the whole universe. Because yes, that's happened. One of these theories was floated by fans with genuine confidence, and Oda looked at it and essentially said, in an interview, "No, that's stupid." Which might be the coldest thing a children's manga author has ever said to his own fanbase. We'll get there. Buckle up. Try to keep up. I'll wait. Theory 1. It's sake. Yes, booze. The great and terrible treasure that launched the Great Pirate Era. That Gol D Roger died laughing about. That Whitebeard used his literal last breath on a global broadcast to confirm was real, is, according to a chunk of the internet, an alcoholic beverage. Specifically, sake. Now, before you laugh, and you should a little, there's actually a reasonably clever engine behind this one. Sake in the world of One Piece isn't just something pirates chug between sword fights. It's a bonding ritual. Luffy, Ace, and Sabo, 3 boys who weren't blood brothers, who had no business being a family, became one, forever, by sharing a cup of sake as children. That's canon. That's not fanfiction, that actually happened. And it's one of the most quietly devastating scenes in the whole show, once you know how Ace's story ends. And later, when Luffy needed to unite an entire fleet of captains at Dressrosa, how'd he do it? Sake again. A toast, a shared cup. Loyalty, sealed not with contracts or blood oaths, but with a drink. Then there's the song, Bink's Sake, the pirate anthem that gets sung throughout the series, treated with a strange reverence for what is, on paper, a shanty about drinking. Fans have pored over those lyrics like they're the Dead Sea Scrolls, convinced they're encoded with secrets about the Void Century. Is any of this confirmed? No, not one bit of it. This is a fan theory, dreamed up largely by a YouTuber, built entirely on vibes and thematic parallels. But I'll say this much for it. It's romantic. It's the idea that the greatest treasure in the world isn't gold. It's the thing that makes strangers into family, which is genuinely lovely. Except Oda has apparently already sat down in an interview and set fire to that exact sentiment. Try not to get attached to nice ideas today. This is not the show for it. Theory 2. It's an ancient weapon. Here's a theory that sounds bulletproof until you actually check the paperwork, which nobody watching anime for fun tends to do. But I did, because apparently that's my job now. There are 3 ancient weapons in this universe: Pluton, Poseidon, and Uranus, built during a mysterious blacked-out 100 years of history called the Void Century, which the world government has made it illegal to even study. Nothing suspicious about a government banning historical research. Nothing at all. Very normal. Very fine. The theory goes, what if the One Piece isn't treasure, it's power? What if Roger found one of these terrifying weapons and that's what made his crew burst out laughing? Problem. 2 of the 3 weapons are already accounted for. Poseidon isn't a weapon in a box somewhere. Poseidon is a person. Shirahoshi, the mermaid princess of Fishman Island, a woman whose defining personality trait for most of the show is cries a lot, turns out to be able to command sea kings, giant sea monsters, with her voice. She is Poseidon. Confirmed on the page. And Pluton, the ancient warship built at Water 7, isn't hidden at Laugh-Tale either. It's sitting under Wano country, near a submerged Mount Fuji. Its blueprints once carried by Frankie, who burned them rather than let them fall into the wrong hands. So we've got 2/3 of the ancient weapons located, named, and explicitly not the One Piece. That leaves Uranus. Nobody knows what Uranus is. Nobody knows where Uranus is. There's a nasty rumour it's connected to a weapon that wiped out an entire island called Lelucia by drowning it. Which is a delightful image to end your Sunday morning cartoon on. Could Uranus be the One Piece? Maybe. It's the one gap in an otherwise closed case. But calling this whole theory strong is generous. It's 1/3 alive on a life support machine, and the other 2/3 are already buried. Theory 3. It's the power of friendship. Right, deep breath. This is the one. This is the theory that gets passed around like scripture in certain corners of the fandom. The idea that the real One Piece isn't gold or weapons or knowledge, it's the bonds the Straw Hats form along the way. The Nakama, the family you choose. Beautiful, wholesome, the kind of thing you'd cross-stitch onto a pillow and hang in a child's bedroom. Ichiro Oda, the man who actually writes this thing, was asked about this exact theory in an interview back in 2019. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing only slightly for delivery, not for accuracy, that One Piece is not about the bonds between the Straw Hats. He has separately dismissed the "it's all about friendship" ending as, and this is close to a direct quote, stupid. Think about that for a second. Somewhere out there is a fan who wrote a lovely little essay about camaraderie and found family and the human heart. Posted it with real pride, got hundreds of upvotes, and the actual author of the actual book looked at that theory from across an ocean and called it stupid. That is the single most humiliating drive-by in the history of manga fandom, and I genuinely respect it. No hand-holding. No, well, everyone's interpretation is valid. Just a flat, no, that's stupid, and back to drawing rubber men. So if you've ever built a personality around, the One Piece is friendship, actually, I'm sorry. Oda got there first, and he did not agree with you. Not even a little. Theory 4. It's the true history of the world. This one's got more academic backbone than the rest, so let's treat it with slightly more respect. Which for me is a very low bar, but here we are. Buried in the story is something called the Rio Poneglyph, the true text of history, formed by combining the messages of 9 separate historical stone tablets scattered across the world. Put them together and you get the complete, true history of everything. The Void Century, the ancient weapons, the works. This isn't speculation. This is Nico Robin's entire life. Her whole character, since the moment she was introduced, has been built around one singular goal. Find the Rio Poneglyph, learn the truth. That's about as canon gets. And Roger, Gol D Roger himself, the man who started this entire mess, apparently said he left behind everything he knew about the world at Laugh-Tale, on top of whatever treasure is actually there. So there's real textual weight behind the idea that the truth of the world is sitting there waiting to be found. But here's the catch. Roger never once calls that knowledge the One Piece. not on the page, not in the panel. Fans have quietly stapled these two things together because they fit so nicely, but that's an inference, not a fact. The world's history is definitely there. Whether it is the treasure or just a very impressive bonus feature sitting next to it is still completely up in the air.
Theory 5. It doesn't exist. It's a lie. And finally, the fun one, the conspiracy theory. The idea that the One Piece is a myth. A story Gol D invented on his way to the executioner's block, purely to destabilize the world government by sending every ambitious lunatic with a boat charging into the Grand Line to die looking for nothing. Chaos as a parting gift. And some versions of this theory even claim Roger's old crew, including Whitebeard, were all in on the con. It's a genuinely fun idea. Dark, cynical, very fitting for a pirate. There's just one small, catastrophic problem with it. Whitebeard, dying, at the Battle of Marineford, in the middle of one of the bloodiest scenes the show has ever drawn, screaming with his final breath, "The One Piece does exist." Not might, not probably, does exist. He says this specifically to shut down Blackbeard, who's out there claiming he's about to be the next pirate king off the back of a treasure that may not even be real. Whitebeard, a man who has no reason left to lie, who is actively dying as he says it, chooses those words as his last act on Earth. So this theory doesn't get debunked by some background character or a footnote. It gets flattened, on page, by one of the single most quoted, highest stakes lines in the entire franchise. It's a conspiracy theory that got run over by a dying pirate's last breath. And honestly, there's a poetry to that. So there you are, 5 theories. Sake, weapons, friendship, history, and a lie that got squashed by a man's dying words. And after all of that, do we actually know what's inside the box? No, not even slightly. What we know, when you strip away the noise, is genuinely tiny. It's real. It made a dying man's whole crew burst into laughter on an island they renamed because of that laugh. And it's been the single most effective piece of marketing in fictional history, because it convinced an entire generation of fictional criminals to sail into certain death for it. And it convinced you to sit here for this long listening to a man mock your favorite show. That's rather brilliant, if you think about it. A treasure so well hidden, the author himself has kept it locked for over 2 decades, and people are still building doctorate-level theories on YouTube trying to pick the lock. I almost admire it. I say almost. There are a lot more pockets of nonsense hiding inside stories like this one, and I intend to keep digging through them. So stick around for that.